Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, the Little Shaman. Today I want to talk to you about disarming the narcissists. Narcissistic people use everything against you. What you love, what you hate, what you've done, what you haven't done, everything. There seems to be no end to the things they can turn against you, blame on you, harass you over, and hate you for. The best way to deal with this is, of course, to get away from them and stay away from them. But if you can't do that, or if you have to deal with them in some capacity, there has to be a way to take those weapons away. After all, every villain has their weakness, right? Dracula has the cross, Frankenstein has fire. Well, there is a way. Their weapons are actually not the things they're saying. Their weapons are the way you feel about the things they're saying. What they're saying are only words. The only reason why those words have power is because you care. They use your own feelings against you, whether they're using your love for them to manipulate you, or guilt to bully you, or things that get you angry to keep you defensive and off balance so that they can blame you and take the focus off themselves and whatever they've done wrong. Their weapons are almost exclusively emotional. This is because they are so exclusively emotional. Even the ones who seem to show no emotions at all are usually tortured by self-hatred and shame inside. So they endeavor to do that to everybody else. It's a neat trick, but it's a weak one, because it only works if you let it work. You have to play along or it fails. If they throw everything in the book at you, but you just stand there and don't react, now what? They look like a childish and possibly unstable person just saying horrible things to someone for no reason, which is exactly what they are. After a while, they even start to look kind of silly. The childishness and ridiculousness of this behavior starts to become really apparent when it's just them participating in it. Even the infamous narcissistic silent treatment works the same way. It's kind of pointless to ignore somebody who doesn't care that you're doing that. The point is that the person is supposed to feel upset that they're being ignored. If they don't, it's kind of silly, isn't it? This is how you disarm the narcissist. They don't really have any power over you at all. It's your own emotions that have power over you. You get those under control and the narcissist games will cease to matter. If you notice, everything they say and do is designed to push an emotional button in other people. The key is to stop buying into that. The way you do it is to stop taking it personally. That sounds difficult, but honestly, it's not. This is a person who doesn't even understand that others are people the same way that they are. How can it possibly be personal? If a 3-year-old called you names and said awful things to you, you wouldn't take that personally, and you certainly wouldn't believe it could be true. It's the same thing because it's the same mentality. You're hearing the grown-up, more articulate version of a 3-year-old's temper tantrum. It's not reality. Even they probably don't really believe the things they're saying. But even if they do, what does it really matter? You can't change their opinion, and how they treat you wouldn't change either way. It's your own expectations that are hurting you here. Narcissistic people are not reasonable, rational, realistic, or fair. More than likely, the narcissistic person in your life has already proven that to you over and over again. You probably don't need me to tell you that. They might have misrepresented themselves in the beginning of the relationship, but if you're listening to this, they've probably already revealed who they really are. It's time to stop expecting them to be some other way because they're not going to be. Your expectations are probably normal and reasonable, but they're not going to be able to meet them. If someone cannot understand what you want from them after months or even years of being told over and over again, maybe it's time to stop thinking they don't understand and start considering the possibility that maybe they just don't care. Many people believe that if they can make the narcissist understand that they aren't a bad person or that they're not doing these things that they're being accused of, the narcissist will stop abusing them. This is not the truth. You cannot convince them because they don't want to be convinced. They are dedicated to their delusions and they'll act the same way regardless. It doesn't even matter. The only person who's really affected by any of this is you. They are simply doing what they do to everybody in your position. It's a very old scene for them and they've played it out many times before already. You are just the current person cast in that role. This behavior did not start with you and it's not going to end with you because it has nothing to do with you. They've more than likely had this exact same relationship over and over and over again. You're simply another supporting actor in a never-ending drama about the narcissist, and quite frankly, to them it doesn't really matter who the other person is because they are the star. That's why we say don't take it personally, because it's not personal. It's personal to you, but it's not personal to them. It's a completely self-centered person using you to play games with themselves. They're not even playing games with you. They are playing the games with themselves. Other people do not matter in this equation. If you need to prove that to yourself, just examine the way they behave. They don't hide it. Since you're the only person truly affected, the way you disarm them is to stop letting them use your own feelings against you. You do that by not reacting to their emotional button pushing anymore. It really is that simple. You can't control the narcissist, so you have to control yourself. There are videos on this channel that were created to help people learn how to stop reacting to the narcissist's endless provocations. And if you need some help with that, definitely check those out. It's not easy, but it's very possible, especially when you realize that you're listening to the adult equivalent of a toddler's temper tantrum and you stop taking it personally. When you take control of your emotions and reactions back, you take the narcissist's power to hurt you away. Because the truth is, it's a scam. It's a lie, just like everything else about them. They have no power. It's been with you the entire time. The only reason the relationship with a narcissist goes the way it does is because people agree to go along with it, whether they realize that or not, and you don't have to do that anymore. I hope that clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you and have a wonderful day. Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast. Now, today I wanted to talk to you about how to stop reacting. I have covered this in other shows here and there, but I wanted to give this topic its own episode because it's such an integral part of breaking the drama cycle and because it can be so hard to do. So first, let's talk about why narcissists try to provoke others in the first place. There are a few reasons for that. One is that they're bored. Now, that sounds like a lame reason, but these types of people don't experience boredom the way the rest of us do. Boredom is experienced by them as incredibly oppressive, even crushing or like scary, and they will do anything to escape that. If it means they have to provoke a fight with you, they will do so with no problem. It's more important that they feel better than it is to respect or care about your feelings. That's, of course, the main theme when dealing with narcissists in general. When it comes down to choosing between you and themselves, they will choose themselves every time. And attached to this reason is also the fact that many of these types of people have impulse control problems and a complete lack of respect for other people. That leads to whatever they think just sort of coming right out of their mouth. So that ends up with constant arguments and problems with other people. Another reason is that they're really hypersensitive to real or imagined criticism. So many times they don't actually feel that they are provoking the incident. They actually feel that you have done something to them and they are defending themselves. This often leads to circular arguments that consist of no, I didn't, yes, you did type of dynamic, where the bewildered partner spends hours trying to explain to the narcissist that the narcissist misunderstood or is mistaken. Nothing can ever be solved in these situations because they insist that you have bad intentions or dastardly motives, and you can't prove that you didn't. Who could? How can you prove that? You can't. So there's no reasoning with this. That's how they want it. I mean, what they feel is how it is. They feel you had a nasty motive, so it becomes a fact that you did, and you will be punished for that. It doesn't matter how much proof there is to the contrary. It will be ignored or it will be twisted against you because the truth is they don't want to believe you anyway. These people fit the facts to their feelings rather than fit their feelings to the facts the way that a non-personality disordered person would do. They want to be the victim because it's the only way they can escape the feeling that they're so horrible. If a person is the victim, they cannot also be the bad guy. That is basically the crux of their position. This is also why they never admit that they're the abuser, that they are the one abusing the other person. If they admit the other person is a victim, then that means the narcissist is the bad guy. That is absolutely intolerable for them. So they automatically interpret everything as something bad against them. Therefore, they are always the victim and never the bad guy. This is also why you are always the bad guy. In their world, there's a hero and a villain, a victim and a bad guy, and you are always going to be the bad guy. That's just how it is. A third and very powerful reason for provoking other people is that narcissists like provoking the emotions of other people. They believe it means that the other people care, in one way or another. They truly do not care whether they are given negative attention or positive attention as long as they're getting attention. If they cannot be the best, then they'll be the worst. If they cannot make you love them, which they do believe they can't do, regardless of how much you tell them that you do love them, then they'll make you hate them. At least then, they're still important. They matter. You care because you're reacting. You're feeding their ego, which demands itself to be recognized. Narcissists are psychic vampires, so this is very, very important to them, and however far they have to take it to get to that, that's how far it's going to go. They are emotional leeches with no sustaining emotions of their own. They have to cling on to yours. Now, perhaps the saddest and most awful of all the reasons that narcissists provoke people is because they are sick, miserable, disordered people who need to lash out. They hate you, they hate themselves, they hate everything, and they just cannot hold it in anymore. The world isn't fair. They were given a disorder that they did not ask for. They're miserable and unhappy and afraid, and they're angry, and it's not fair that everyone gets to be happy when they don't. So they actively try to ruin things for other people. It makes them feel better. Maybe they're not happy, but now neither is anybody else. It makes them feel powerful and less vulnerable. It's like a drug for them. They are literally addicted to your pain. It's the only thing that makes them feel better. So now that we know the why, let's talk about the how. How do you stop reacting to this constant onslaught and barrage of emotional extortion, provocation, hysteria, and blows below the belt? Well, you just stop. That's it. It's harder than it sounds, but it's also easier than you think. See, part of the reason that people react the way they do in situations is that behaviors become patterns. The reason why we're doing that is because it's what we're used to doing, and also especially in high emotion or dramatic situations, which there always are with these types of people, your body starts to think that this is how it's supposed to function all the time. But it got trained into that, and it can be trained out of it the same way. It's all about making different choices. That is what you have to focus on here. Your choices. Because you cannot control your narcissistic loved one or a coworker. They cannot even control themselves. You have no hope of controlling them. You can only control yourself, and that's what you have to do. Just stop reacting. The episode of my show about how to deal with narcissists explains a method called the gray rock method, and that is essentially what we're talking about here. You become a gray rock and you react how a gray rock would, which is not at all. It goes in steps. First you control the behavior, then you control the emotion. If your reaction is to start yelling, stop yelling. If your reaction is to start crying, stop crying. If your reaction is to call names or insult the narcissist back, stop doing that. You're still going to feel the reaction inside of you, and it's still going to want to come out. Your body is trying to do what it's always been doing, but you are in control, unlike the narcissist. The narcissist does not control your reactions, you do. Take a deep breath and tell yourself, I'm not going to react. That is what the narcissist wants, and I'm not going to give it to him. Now, this really does work. Ignore the provocation by not responding at all if you can, and if you can't, such as you're having a necessary communication with the narcissist, simply assert your point or answer the question and nothing else. Don't acknowledge the insult or the guilt trip. Just let it go. If you cannot stop yourself from having a reaction, leave the room. And by not having a reaction, don't have a reaction at all. Don't make a face. Don't sigh, don't take a deep breath, no reaction. What would a rock do? A rock wouldn't do anything. The narcissist is trying to control and manipulate your feelings, but it can only work if you let it work. I'm going to repeat that. The narcissist is trying to control and manipulate your feelings, but it can only work if you let it work. They have no power that you did not give them. You can take the power back and reclaim control over your life, your mind, and your emotions. This is how you do that. Now, after you have consistently stopped reacting, you're going to notice the narcissist will ramp up the abuse and the provocation because they're trying harder to get you to react and to upset you. You just have to keep ignoring it. After you've done that for a length of time, you are going to notice that your body and mind no longer respond the way that they used to. You will not feel the reaction inside you anymore, and this is where you want to be. If you crack occasionally, don't beat yourself up. These people are masters at manipulation. The important thing is to react less and less until you don't react at all. And remember, this is for all you empaths out there. We all know narcissists are champion guilt givers and empaths are champion guilt takers. So I'm speaking directly to you. This does not mean that you don't care. It means that you are asserting control over your own life, your own mind, and your own emotions the way that healthy people are supposed to do. This is not wrong for you to do, it's right, and it has nothing to do with how much you care about the narcissist, no matter what they say. For once, it's not about them, it's about you. You don't have to apologize for that, and you don't have to explain yourself. I hope this has helped clear up how to stop reacting and given you some techniques that you can use. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast. That's me, the Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you and have a wonderful day. Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast, brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, the Little Shaman. Today I'm going to present a re-recording of an episode of the show from 2015. As you know, I had to re-upload all my videos onto this new channel, and I thought I would re-record the ones that had music because some people said that they felt that made it hard to hear. This is one that many of you may remember, how to get rid of the narcissist or psychopath in your life. Living with a pathologically narcissistic person is one of the most difficult and frankly horrible things a person is likely to do in their lifetime. These people are abusive, manipulative, destructive, and corrosive. Some may never move on if they are not emphatically convinced to do so. So how do you get rid of them? The key lies in understanding what drives the narcissistic person in the first place. The first thing to understand is that even though the underlying trauma that created the narcissistic person may be very complex, the narcissist themselves is not. These are simple personalities and very childish in their desires and needs. They are driven by envy and boredom, pretty much, in that order. If we were to look at these personalities as the sort of adult equivalent of a 2-year-old that is taking another child's toy to make that child cry, we see a very good metaphor for how they work. And how do you stop this behavior in children? You stop allowing the behavior. So that's what you have to do with an adult narcissistic person in your life. You have to stop encouraging the behavior and stop allowing the behavior. If the 2-year-old in our analogy can no longer provoke the emotional response that they're looking for, or if the object of envy, such as the toy, is gone, they will stop their behavior in very short order and move on to something else. The same is true with narcissistic people a lot of the time. They seek to control other people through provoking emotional responses and through destroying the things that they envy. If you simply stop responding, you take their control away. This is extremely important, so it bears repeating. If you stop responding, you take their control away. So how do you do that? The answer lies in 2 words: be boring. It sounds simple, and it really is. Narcissistic people crave upheaval, emotional fireworks, drama, and excitement. They attack and abuse out of boredom and envy a lot of the time. Don't give them anything to envy and stop responding to their attacks. Like we always say, stop reacting. The latter in particular can be very difficult to do because narcissistic people have often honed their attacks and their abuse to be very, very effective. It often cuts their loved ones to the quick like an arrow in the gut. They are masters at inspiring rage or extreme anxiety in other people with just a few short phrases, and some can do it without even saying a word. They are counting on that. This reaction is exactly what they want. So don't give it to them. Be boring. Be beige. Envision a gray rock in your mind. That's why we call it the gray rock method. How would a gray rock respond or react to the things that the narcissist is doing? That's a trick question because it wouldn't. It would sit there inflexible and serene. It wouldn't matter what happened. In a word, it would be boring. Be a gray rock or a blank white wall, whatever you need to picture in your mind. Ignore threats, hysteria, insults, whatever else is said. They're all just words anyway. Respond when you have to, but never in an emotional way. So for example, when are you ever going to let me see my kids now that we're divorced or after we're divorced? You just want to take them from me and turn them against me. You're a horrible parent. A non-emotional response to that would be, you can see the kids whenever you're supposed to according to the custody agreement or whatever the answer would be, according to what you have worked out. That's it, in a very controlled voice with no emotion at all. Don't defend yourself, don't apologize, don't give excuses, don't insult them in return. Just answer the question and leave it at that. The narcissist will undoubtedly continue for a little while in this vein in an attempt to provoke a response out of you, stepping up the insults and using things that they know will hurt or anger you. Don't give in. Only respond if you absolutely have to, and then only in a polite and disinterested way. Don't allow emotions to become part of the conversation in any way. Don't argue. Now, this doesn't mean give in to everything that they want or that they say. By all means, stick to your guns and state your side if you really have to, but don't argue. It's a pretty safe bet that the person you're dealing with does not know how to handle a person who doesn't become enraged or hurt by their quote-unquote style of arguing. So if you absolutely have to respond, be that person. Remember, this has always been a two-way street, even if it didn't seem to be, with the narcissist taking and you giving. By controlling your own emotions, you're able to take the control and the power away from the narcissistic person in this situation. Now, envy is a little trickier. It has more to do with who they are as a person. Narcissistic people envy others many things because inside they know they are not truly a, quote, real person the way they would like to be. If somebody has a talent or a good quality, the narcissist endeavors to take these things away from that person. They will do whatever they can to destroy or disrupt it, and, many of them really delight in doing that. The trick here is essentially to hide it from them so they can't do that. In a lot of ways, because of their sort of childlike simplicity, they're attracted to things that are shiny and pretty. Unfortunately, with the pathologically narcissistic person, attraction equals envy, which equals eventually attempt to destroy. So how do you stop giving them things to envy? Be boring. You might say, they already say I'm boring and lame and not exciting, so how can this work for me? Simple. They're lying. If that were really true, they would have already moved on. They are simply trying to destroy your confidence and crush these good qualities out of envy. They're also projecting onto you what they think or fear about themselves, so don't listen to them. The bottom line with any pathologically narcissistic personality is this: they are the uncontested champions of needing constant stimulation. So if they stay with you, you are not boring. No matter what they say, there's something, some spark about you that caught their attention in the first place and that keeps them hanging on. So stop doing all the things you did that attracted the narcissist in the first place. Don't be funny. Don't be outgoing. Don't be passionate. Don't be emotional. Don't be smart, pretty, charismatic, exciting. And above all, don't argue. Don't feed into the drama. Just be a gray rock. Narcissistic personalities don't experience boredom in the same way that normal people do. It's experienced by them as incredibly oppressive and even terrifying in some ways and should be avoided at all costs. So if you pile on the boredom, you watch what happens. When you stop reacting to them, they start getting afraid that you don't care anymore. Now, is this fair to you? In a word, no, it's not. No one should have to hide all of their good qualities and their behavior to become a gray rock just to get away from another person. However, since you're listening to this, you've probably already figured out that the narcissistic person is not interested in fairness at all. They're interested in controlling other people and using them for their own personal entertainment and validation. That's all. They don't care about other people's feelings at all, except to the extent that they can use those feelings to hurt and dominate other people, thereby putting themselves over and on a higher level. If you are trying to do anything with a narcissistic person based on some idea of fairness, you're going to be very, very disappointed and probably also very, very sorry. Understand from the jump that the situation is not fair to you, has never been fair to you, will never be fair to you at all, and then work with it, because it's the only way you will be successful. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself locked in a power struggle with the pathologically narcissistic person until the end of time, with them using that need and sense of equality against you nonstop. They will use that to manipulate your sense of fairness into excusing their terrible behavior by calling you unfair, and they will use it as a weapon because they know it hurts you. It's all unfair, but this is where we find ourselves. It's hard, especially after being mistreated, but you gotta let that go. It's more important to get this person out of your life before they can do any more damage. Now, while many people have reported great success with this method, some have reported that it only causes the narcissist to escalate their abuse, especially in situations where it isn't easy for people to just leave, such as when it's a family member or a parent. However, escalation is to be expected, at least initially, as they engage in more and more extreme behavior designed to provoke a response out of you. If this extreme behavior ever turns violent or gets physical, you need to leave the situation as quickly as possible and call the police or whatever you need to do to keep yourself safe. Once the narcissist truly sees that they cannot get a rise out of you, oftentimes they do stop. The question is, how long is this going to take? It's a question with no easy answer. It could be a couple hours, it could be a couple months, it could be years. As always, no contact is the best way to deal with this situation. The gray rock method is designed for use in situations where no contact is not feasible. It is not recommended to be used as a long-term management tool. This is a tool you can use to try to get them out of your life and to try to manage situations where you are forced to interact with them. Remember that you cannot control the behavior of other people. You can only control yourself. I hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. I take appointments online and over the phone Monday through Saturday. So if you're interested in speaking with me, you can visit littleshaman.org to go ahead and book an appointment, or you can use the link available in the information section down below this video. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, the Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you and have a wonderful day. Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, the Little Shaman. Today I want to talk to you about something that can help you in your interactions with narcissists, and that is responding versus reacting. Now, of course, we will preface these remarks by saying that it's always best not to interact with narcissists if that's possible. For the times when it isn't possible, there's a strategy you can practice that can help the interaction be less stressful. Before I explain, I want to make sure that people understand that the goal of these types of strategies is not to control the narcissist behavior. So let's make that clear up front. I often hear people say things like, well, I tried the gray rock method, but the narcissist just kept on. Or I went no contact, but the narcissist keeps bothering me. Yeah, that's probably going to happen. You can't control the narcissist behavior or anyone else's, and you can't do anything about the way somebody else acts. If that is your goal, then you're going to feel like a failure because it's not going to work. The only reaction and behavior you have control over is your own, and that is where your focus should be. Using these type of techniques will keep you from getting stressed out and upset. Let the narcissist worry about their own feelings for once. It's their problem, not yours. This can be hard for some people to internalize, especially since the narcissist has made you responsible for their feelings since day one, using guilt, manipulation, gaslighting, and a host of other nasty little tactics. So write it down if you have to, or repeat it to yourself until it sinks in. The narcissist's feelings are not my responsibility. One of the most difficult things about interacting with narcissists is keeping your feelings out of it. They are hot button pushers. They love to press those hot buttons and get people all worked up and upset. And though I've dedicated a large portion of the show to trying to spread the understanding that the way narcissists behave towards others is really not personal, while that can help in retrospect when someone is looking at the big picture and trying to understand so they can let go of the hatred and move on, it can be hard to remember in the moment when the narcissist is insulting, berating, or accusing you right to your face. That is, of course, what the narcissist wants. They want you to become upset. They want you to think it's personal, that it really is about you and how bad you are. This takes the focus off of them and how bad they are. It doesn't matter that you weren't saying that, weren't thinking it, and don't feel that way. They feel that way. That's why it's not personal. It's not even about you or your feelings at all. Knowing that actually goes a long way toward being able to deal with your feelings during your interactions with narcissists. On some level, they don't really believe that you did these things, that you feel that way, or that you said these things. They are simply projecting their own feelings onto you so that those feelings are easier for them to deal with. It's all subconscious, and by now, it's an automatic reaction for the narcissist. Self-hatred is very hard to defend against, and it's very hard to deny. Hatred from other people is much easier to deal with because the narcissist can then claim it's unfair or unjust. They can deny it. They can attack back. It changes their position from defense to offense, which makes them feel less vulnerable. This is the crux of what they're trying to do. You are simply getting caught in the crossfire of a very old war that has nothing to do with you. It's within the narcissist completely. Of course, your reaction to this is confusion, outrage, anger, hurt, betrayal, just the whole shebang. And why wouldn't it be? You've just been blindsided by an attack for no reason. That's what they want. They want you to become emotional and angry. They want to fight about how awful you are so they don't have to think about how awful they are. Well, that's not fair. And you can stop them from forcing you to carry all the emotions they can't deal with like some kind of emotional pack mule. You do that by not reacting. Now, this doesn't mean not to respond. Reacting and responding are two different things. Responding is talking. Reacting is emoting, showing emotions. If you are interacting with the narcissist, chances are it's because you have to for some reason, which means that not responding might not be an option. But not reacting is always an option. You don't have to get emotionally involved to have a conversation. And just because someone lays the bait out, it doesn't mean you have to take it. The narcissist is not going to change. These behaviors are so ingrained in them that they have become second nature, so you have to change your behavior. Before the interaction starts, if you can, remind yourself again that the narcissist's feelings are not your responsibility. Keep trying to remind yourself of that throughout the interaction. This person's feelings are not my responsibility. It's not my problem. This is nothing but the truth. Everyone in the world is responsible for experiencing, carrying, processing, and dealing with their own feelings. If the narcissist can't do that, that's their problem. They have no right to force you to do that for them, and to be perfectly honest, you have no right to do it. It's wrong, and it's not helping them. It's hurting them, and it's hurting you. It needs to stop. So repeat that to yourself until you really, really internalize it and understand. The narcissist's feelings are not my responsibility. Once the interaction begins, the narcissist will probably try to bait you with insults and sarcasm and nasty remarks and all the things that they do to try to get a rise out of people. They're trying to cause an argument so they can force you to be their emotional pack mule. Don't let them do that. Just don't react. No matter what they say, no matter how crazy and insulting and disrespectful it is, don't react emotionally. Don't yell, don't deny, don't explain, don't excuse, just ignore it. Remind yourself that this person is only doing this because they can't deal with the fact that they hate themselves, and let it go, because that's the truth. It has nothing to do with you. It's because they feel bad about themselves. It's because they hate themselves, and the only way they can escape that is to try to pretend that it's coming from somebody else. And remember, the narcissist's feelings are not your responsibility. Count to 10 and take a deep breath, or try to distract yourself while you're talking to them. It's actually not as hard as you would think, especially once you interrupt your own automatic reaction of like jumping to the defense and explaining or getting angry. Because just like it's a reaction in them, it's a reaction in you too. But reactions are choices. And even if they don't know that, you do. And you can do something about it. Now, once you start doing that, the narcissist is going to be the one who's confused and off balance. They are not going to know what to do. More than likely, they're going to try to up the ante to try and get you to react. They're going to get ruder and more disrespectful, and they might start yelling. If they can't get you to carry their emotional weight, they're going to have to deal with it themselves, and that is very frightening and stressful for them, and they are going to react to that. Just keep ignoring their emotional bait. If the interaction becomes too intense, or you don't think you can keep your cool, walk away or hang up on them, or otherwise end it. Try not to let them see that they've gotten to you if you can help it. This really does work. It really does diffuse the situation. It really does keep you from getting upset. And over time, a lot of times they do stop trying to bait you when they see that it's not going to work. I know it sounds difficult, but the truth is, once you start to see this behavior for what it really is, it starts to become much easier not to take it personally. These are miserable, immature, and disordered people who cannot handle their own feelings and want somebody else to take the weight. It does not have to be you. I hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by Earth Mama's Apothecary and littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. Today I want to talk to you about using the gray rock method with narcissistic people. Many people have asked for clarification regarding what gray rock is, so I thought I'd talk about it on the show today. Gray rock is a technique for dealing with narcissistic people when you cannot go no contact. The name comes from picturing someone having an argument with a gray rock. How would the gray rock react? It wouldn't. It wouldn't get annoyed. It wouldn't get upset. It wouldn't get angry. It would not react at all. When you use the gray rock method, you channel the strength and the featurelessness of the gray rock so that you do not react to the narcissist. When you're dealing with a pathologically narcissistic person, you often find yourself becoming very upset. You may defend, explain, argue, reason, insult, scream, holler, cry, and more due to the narcissistic person's blatant provocation, deliberate baiting, and refusal to listen. The conflict escalates and goes around and around with nothing ever being resolved or even addressed. The thing is, this is what they want. They don't want anything to be resolved or addressed, especially because so often the conflict is about something they've done wrong. Even if it isn't, most narcissistic people thrive on conflict and drama. They don't seem to feel alive unless there are some emotional fireworks happening, and they seem to take every opportunity they can to create them. They will move the goalposts, make straw man arguments, accuse, attack, muddy the waters, throw red herrings, misunderstand, misinterpret, distract, sidetrack, derail, and anything else they can do until the conversation is hopelessly broken and unable to continue. The other person is frustrated, exhausted, and upset. The narcissist has gotten what they wanted, whatever that might be, and is usually pretty satisfied with themselves. Now, though it may be the narcissist who is the instigator a lot of the time, this is not a dance for one person. You are contributing to it as well. Yes, it is true that you may be just defending yourself, but it's also true that that doesn't really matter. Narcissists take any reaction as a victory. When you react emotionally, they've won. That's why you see that smirky look on their face, no matter how angry or upset they claim to be, because they got what they wanted. They won because you took the bait. The rest of it is just gravy. It's the emotional equivalent of an obnoxious little kid trying to stir up trouble because they're bored or angry. They have no idea how much it hurts you, and they wouldn't care even if they did know. You don't matter. You're there to serve their needs, and that's all. If they're angry, you're supposed to be the punching bag. If they're bored, you're supposed to be the entertainment. That's it. There are some narcissistic people farther down the spectrum who have more malignant motives, but for most of them, this is as far as it goes. Your feelings are not the motivation because they have not even occurred to the narcissistic person at all. Even if the narcissist can acknowledge being hurtful on a surface level, it means nothing to them on an emotional level, which is to say, it means nothing to them at all. This is the pathologically narcissistic person's power over you. the ability to control you through your emotions. The way to stop this from happening is to take purposeful and intentional control of your emotions. It's not easy, I'm not going to pretend that it is, but it works if it's done correctly. And just to clarify, people sometimes give up on the gray rock method because they say it doesn't make the narcissist stop being abusive. Nothing is going to do that, and that's not what gray rock is for. Gray rock is so that you can step back from the situation and stop feeding into it. It's to stop yourself from getting upset so you can give yourself some peace. The gray rock method cannot make narcissistic people stop being combative and abusive. This is what narcissists are. So instead of giving up control of your emotions and how the situation affects you, give up the idea that you can somehow control other people or their behavior, because you can't. They will do what they want to do for their own reasons, and it really doesn't matter whether it's fair or whether you think you deserve it or not. This is just how it is. Dealing with narcissists forces people to engage others on a realistic basis rather than through an idealized notion of how things are supposed to be. Yes, of course, in a perfect world, everything would be fair and just and right. But the world is not perfect, and neither are the people in it, whether they're narcissists or not. If we are going to make it through life with any sense of sanity at all, we have to accept that. We don't have to like it, nor do we have to condone it, but we have to realize that there are some things that we just cannot change. All we can really do is decide how things that are out of our control are going to affect us. Many people have given up control of their emotions, and through this, they have given control over themselves to other people. They have placed the responsibility for their feelings in the hands of other people. This ultimately means they've made other people responsible for their safety, their peace, and their happiness. These things are far too precious to be in the control of other people. Take control over them and put the responsibility back into your own hands. Now, there is often resistance to this idea. People sometimes don't realize how to take the power back. Maybe they're scared, maybe they don't want the responsibility. Whatever the reason, though, they're eventually going to realize that making other people responsible for your safety results in no safety. Making other people responsible for your peace results in no peace. Making other people responsible for your happiness results in unhappiness. No one is ever going to take care of you the way that you would. And instead of getting angry at them or upset at them for letting you down, you can take care of your needs yourself. This is the big difference between narcissistic people and everybody else. Narcissists cannot do this, but non-narcissistic people can learn how. So how do you do it? You stop reacting to the baiting, the provocations, the accusing. Again, this is not easy. In fact, as hard as hell. Your first instinct is to react, to explain, to justify, to prove, to argue, to get upset. You have to deliberately and consciously choose to ignore the impulse to do that. A lot of people ask me, how? How do I do that? You do it by just not doing it. Just don't explain. Don't justify. Don't try to prove anything. Don't get upset. Just don't do it. And keep not doing it. Not getting upset can be difficult, especially when someone is trying their absolute hardest to provoke you, but it can be done. And once you start doing it, you realize that it really is a choice, and that it was a choice all along. You really do have control over your emotions and your reaction. It helps to understand that the things they're saying to you aren't personal. That's not just some new age Zen BS I'm laying on you either. It's the absolute truth. They're not even capable of seeing other people as people, so how can it possibly be personal? As the saying goes, offense is not given, it is taken. You can refuse delivery, and it makes sense to do so. Everything they're saying to you is for or about themselves. Everything. It literally has nothing to do with you. It can only affect you if you let it, because the only power people have over you is the power that you have given them. It's important not to give up on this too quickly, because the urge to react takes time to fade. It's not something that's just going to go away. You are going to feel the urge to react that way for a while. It's a habit. It's how you interact with this person. It's also usually an addiction of sorts to the drama cycle, as well as to the chemicals your body produces when you're upset. And just like quitting any other habit or fighting any other addiction, you have to deliberately choose not to engage in it. The urge to smoke doesn't just go away because you've decided you're not going to smoke anymore. You have to intentionally choose not to do it over and over and over again. Let's say you crack your knuckles, or you type with only one hand, or you hold the ping pong paddle wrong. The impulse to do these things is not just going to disappear because you don't want to do them anymore. You have to deliberately and intentionally force yourself to stop. It's the same thing with reacting. You have to choose not to do it and keep choosing not to do it. Now, admittedly, the narcissistic person in your life is probably not going to like that. Many people say things like, well, but if I don't agree to do these unreasonable, unfair things, or if I don't react and become upset and all these other things, the narcissist is going to get angry and abuse me. Well, putting up with abuse to try to avoid more abuse makes no sense. You're not avoiding anything. If you're going to be abused either way, and you will, you might as well do what you can to ease the stress on yourself. The gray rock method helps you do that. It calls intentional and conscious attention to your reactions so that you can control and manage them for your own well-being. Sometimes people get angry at the suggestion that they not defend themselves. They feel that it lets the narcissist off scot-free or that it's like backing down. So let me ask you something. Have you ever gotten through to them? Have you ever actually convinced them that they were wrong about you or about anything? Has it ever resulted in anything other than an endless argument about nothing? Because if it has, or if you like endless arguments, then by all means, go right ahead and keep going. But for those who understand the futility of the situation, Gray Rock can help you get through the situation with your sanity. The longer you practice Gray Rock, the better you'll get at it, and eventually your body and mind will stop automatically reacting the way that it is, and it will not be as hard not to react. The more you exert control over your emotions, the less the narcissist's provocations are going to bother you. You will come to realize that you don't need to react or defend yourself or explain yourself, especially because it does no good anyway. They're not listening and they don't care. You can take the power back from them and put it where it belongs, with you. And of course, if the narcissist in your life is doing something that is illegal or dangerous, you need to get the authorities involved and you need to leave the situation. I hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. I take appointments over the phone or online, so if you're interested in speaking with me one-on-one, you can visit littleshaman.org and click the Bookings tab to schedule an appointment, or you can follow the link in the information section for this video. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, the Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you and have a wonderful day. Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast. That's me, the Little Shaman, and today I would like to speak with you about something that I actually get asked about all the time, and people bring it up all the time, and that is, what is the purpose of going no contact and the Gray Rock method? And the reason why I'm going to talk about this really quick is because I often have people tell me that going no contact or using the Gray Rock method didn't work because the narcissist is still bothering them or is still insulting them. Though I understand the frustration, this is the wrong way to look at that. You can't act in the hope of getting the narcissist to do or not do something. If you're looking at it like that, they still have control over your life. You have to tailor your actions in a way that benefits you. The purpose of going no contact or using the Gray Rock method is not to control the narcissist. It's to control yourself. It's to stop allowing the narcissist to influence and control your life. If you're only acting with the intent of creating a response from the narcissist, their control over your life has not stopped. You are still doing things with them and their reaction in mind. It's time to stop doing that. This is how you truly take the power back over your own life. It is often the biggest challenge in a person's life to learn how to control themselves and only themselves. All too often, we as human beings do things with the intent of controlling other people. This leads to frustration and chronic unhappiness because you cannot control other people. You can only control yourself. Too many times we do things designed to make people love us or notice us or leave us alone. This means our behavior is actually designed to control the feelings or the actions of others. This is not only unhealthy, but it's usually pretty unsuccessful. People may never love you, no matter how giving you are. They may never notice you, no matter how loud or flashy you are. They may never leave you alone, no matter how much you ignore them. The goal of your own behavior should always be your own peace. Then it doesn't matter how people react to it or what they think about it. When you learn how to control yourself and stop reacting and stop worrying about controlling other people, you take the power back. You can take the control back by doing that. The things that used to upset you so much in the past stop affecting you. This is the goal of the Gray Rock method. This is the goal of going no contact. It's not to do something to the narcissist or create some type of reaction or feeling in them. It's to do something for yourself. As Captain Jack Sparrow famously said, the problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem. We can even make that more relevant here by changing it a little bit to say, the problem is not the narcissist, the problem is your reaction to the narcissist. Once you master that, a beautiful thing begins to happen. They are no longer capable of hurting you. This is the goal of both the no contact and the Gray Rock method. Not changing their behavior or feelings, changing yours. I hope this clears a few things up for you. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast. That's me, the Little Shaman. As always, I look forward to your comments, stories, and suggestions. May the Great Spirit bless you and have a wonderful day.